Hi guys, how are you doing today? Ready for new stories Drama King prepared for you? I have 5 new ones for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's pregnant wife, who blames her infidelity on pregnancy hormones. How crazy is that? Would you consider to forgive your wife in this situation? Listen till the end, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My pregnant wife blames her infidelity on pregnancy hormones. What am I supposed to do with a baby on the way? For the last 3 months, my life has been a living hell. My wife uses her pregnancy to defend making my life a living hell. Alongside the constant stream of demands during the day, almost every night for the last 3 months, she wakes me up in the middle of the night to demand I make or buy her something she's craving. If I'm lucky, it's something we have at home. Often, I find myself making 3 a.m. drives to 24-hour gas stations or McDonald's, despite starting work at 7:30 a.m. This even included making me fly from Wellington to Auckland to get her a stupid bloody giant Big Mac cookie because the store doesn't ship them to Wellington. She literally badgered me for a week before I finally relented and bought a plane ticket to get her the damn thing. Anyway, sorry for the rambling. To the point of my problem. I found out she has been S-texting guys she met on Tinder. This all started after she got pregnant, and she is blaming pregnancy hormones for making her feel insecure. Etc., etc. I know this excuse is probably nonsense. But Duck, I'm a guy. I have no idea about this sort of stuff. If she wasn't pregnant, I'd leave without saying another word to her. But she is. We have a kid on the way. I feel a moral obligation to make this work. The relationship was honestly much better before she got pregnant. So maybe she's telling the truth. Duck me, I'm rambling again. How the hell am I supposed to fix this relationship when my wife is an emotional train wreck and uses pregnancy hormones whenever I try to make her see this? Hormone surges can cause some kinds of drives in people, and pregnancy causes hormones to go crazy. But we have something called conscience, self-control, discipline. Apparently, OP's wife lacks those things and is using her pregnancy as an excuse. Thing is, OP is gonna break up, maybe tomorrow, maybe far in the future. OP has the obligation to be a good father, but he is not obligated to be the doormat of an inconsiderate woman. I am 17, female. My mom and dad were not married when they had me, and they did not think a marriage would work. He was an unemployed college graduate, and she was just about to start college when she got pregnant. She wasn't ready. So when I was 2, my dad married Susan. She had a daughter my age, Mia. My dad and Susan had a very tumultuous relationship and got a divorce when I was 5. My dad and mom reconnected over co-parenting me. She'd always been in my life, but they became closer after those years. She'd gone to college. She was feeling ready to get married after all. I didn't see Susan or Mia for years. I didn't really know how to think of them. I used the words once sister and once mom in my childhood journal. Anyway, I'm older now, 17, and I found Mia on Facebook. She was never too far from me, just 2 towns over, and I've got my driver's license. I asked if she wanted to go for coffee and catch up. She said yes. She remembers me and would love to reconnect. When we met again, we just clicked. It was one of those rare times that you just instantly connect with someone. Mia said she told Susan about going to meet me, and I told her that I hadn't told my parents yet. Things were stressful at home, and I didn't want to talk to them at all about what friends I was out with. We became really close, really fast. It's been just 5 months since we met, and we're each other's best friends. My parents asked me if I wanted to have an 18th birthday party. I could have my friends over. I said absolutely, but then I remembered I still hadn't said anything about Mia to them. So I said that I'd made a new friend who I wanted to invite. She is Susan's daughter, Mia. We'd reconnected recently. Susan might need to drop her off. My parents didn't take it well. My mom said that she wasn't letting Susan on the property. My dad agreed and said that Susan was a horrible person. She'd done awful stuff that he tried to shelter me from when he divorced her, and for our family's own good, she was not allowed back in our lives. I asked, what about Mia? I could pick her up in my car. And my dad asked if I've been to the house before. I said yeah, just to pick up Mia sometimes. My dad was furious that I hid that. I said I wasn't hiding things. He never asks who my friends are or what I'm doing. He said this was not some random friend. This was his ex-wife's daughter. And he said I wasn't allowed to see her again, or especially her mother. I asked why. What had her mother done that had torn such a rift that I couldn't even see Mia, who's her own separate person and my best friend? He wouldn't tell me, and he's actually taken away my car keys. I still have no idea why this is such a touchy subject. Edit to add. Trying to puzzle out what happened back when we were 5. And we've got bits of memory that seem to sometimes conflict and sometimes agree. We both remember a lot of conflict, screaming, fighting, police being involved, and then later lawyers. I remember being woken up at 1 a.m. to leave. My dad and Susan were fighting at night, and suddenly he took me away in his car, and we stayed at a homeless shelter for a while, then at his parents'. My dad said to me later that Susan made us leave. Mia remembers waking up one morning and my dad and I were gone. Susan saying that we ran away because my dad was upset and would hopefully come back and be a family again once he had calmed down. But she never saw us again as a child, and Susan didn't like to talk about it. The way we were cut off from each other was so sudden and complete, it was really confusing at that age. I think there were criminal charges filed one or both ways, but maybe dropped or settled privately because I can't find records online. I think it's going to be something OP will have to balance. Until she moves out, OP can't invite her to her parents' house or tell them they're friends. OP should also not go to her house. Going out for coffee, dinner, hikes, etc., and texting and calling should be sufficient until OP moves out. It's unfair to OP's dad to bring something traumatic back to his life, and as dumb as it can be sometimes, parents set the rules in the house. My girlfriend broke up with me, 33 male, because even though her daughter loves playing and hanging out with me, she does not want to have a stepdad or stepbrother or stepsister. And to make it crazier, the daughter always asks me to go over their apartment to hang out, and she knows I love her and her mom, but when my ex-girlfriend would bring up the idea of marriage and having a stepbrother or stepsister, her daughter would cry herself to sleep. I love that kid so much, so it breaks me apart to know her daughter is experiencing that much conflict inside when this problem should be handled quietly between the parents. But I understand why, and it's because I know how much her dad hates me. The thought of her dad knowing that her and her mom are living at my house is too much for a 9-year-old to handle. My ex was a longtime friend who I've known since we were in college, so we had a relationship based on friendship. My ex-girlfriend's ex is a jealous man, and it started because he didn't like how his ex would have friends that were guys. I had no romantic interest when my ex-girlfriend and I were dating other people, but when we were both single, we went for it and have been so happy where we started trying to have a baby last month. With how serious we were, my ex and I have really tried to show her daughter that she would still be the center of both of our lives because I've grown to love her as my own daughter, and I'm not trying to replace him or take the dad label because her dad is still in the picture. The efforts didn't work, and a 9-year-old girl goes to sleep at night crying, and I hate myself for it. I've been so numb, and I can't think since this happened, but I'll never know what it's like to be in my ex-girlfriend's situation. Should I give it time to see if it'll change, or should I move on and be thankful it happened? Whilst this is clearly a fine line situation, I think the mother needs to put her foot down. This is not really a situation where the daughter should be allowed to make the decision, which is what's happening. OP's now ex is so busy trying to please her daughter that she's damaging her in the long run. However, I think it's unlikely that X will accept this and will probably get angry with OP for bringing it up. Best just to move on and not to continue to go over there if offered. My husband and I got married when we were 22, straight out of college. Before then, we had been dating for 5 years. We got an apartment together and both worked pretty good jobs. We currently have 2 daughters together, 3 and 5. After the birth of our first daughter, I quit my job to be a stay-at-home mother and started selling homemade things online. Shortly after the birth of our second daughter, my husband lost his job. For a few months, I supported our family while he looked for jobs. My shop was doing pretty well, and he helped me along with doing odd Craigslist jobs to pull his weight. One day, my husband disappeared. My youngest daughter was only 6 months old. He didn't come home after doing a Craigslist job. I called his brother, who immediately came over to help calm me down. He assured me that my husband was probably fine. We contacted the Craigslist people, who said they never saw him. They showed us their surveillance footage, and their neighbors also kindly let us look at their surveillance tapes. We confirmed that he never went and filed a missing persons report. There wasn't much to go off of. His car was found on the side of the road, called into the police station before we filed the report. There were no signs of foul play. The keys were not found, and it seemed like he just parked the car and left. There has been no trace of him. I adjusted and life went on. We went through all of the "Have you seen him" posters and posts on social media. We held on hope that he was alive and safe, but it was very difficult. I continued to support my family while working at home. Eventually, people began to accept the fact that he was never coming back, and at worst, dead. A few days ago, I got a bouquet of flowers. There was no signature or message left with them except for my name. Yesterday, I received a knock on the door. I opened it and saw my husband in a nice suit. I honestly could not believe it. I was shocked and more livid than anything. All I could think was, what the actual duck? I just closed the door and started sobbing. My children were at school and daycare, so it was just me at home. He started knocking and explaining things, but I wasn't really listening. I was just crying and crying to myself. He finally just slid a letter into the mail slot and left. This morning, I opened it after dropping my kids off at daycare and school. He explained that he felt like a deadbeat and so useless. He left because he wanted to find a job and spend time working hard without worrying about destroying our relationship. His brother helped him disappear and even helped my husband secure a false identity. My husband traveled to a remote town on the other side of the country and began a new life there. He was successful and earned a lot of money. The money he earned definitely categorizes him as wealthy now. He said he wants to restart our family and our marriage. There is a lot of apologizing in the letter. He didn't expect to be gone for so long and initially planned to be gone for 1 year. He understands if I don't want to keep contact with him. What the duck? What the actual duck? What do I do? In my opinion, he could have easily told OP this, but instead, he put her through years of worry and grief and having to raise her daughters without any support. Duck that. He didn't run because he wanted to make money. He ran because he didn't want to have to be a responsible adult, husband, or father, with no consideration at all whatsoever about how OP feels or what she needed to raise kids. I am sure as hell I wouldn't let him back into my life beyond what is court-ordered for support for the kids. OP should not let him buy himself a family just because now he arbitrarily decided he's ready to have one. 7 years ago, when I, 17 male, was preparing for college at 17, I was trying to find scholarships. I applied to a scholarship run by a local family using money from a man in the family who was very wealthy. They eventually announced that a girl from our town had won, and I thought nothing of it. My brother, 27 male, is now in AA and is making amends. He admitted to me that I won the contest. He said that an old teacher of his was on the scholarship board and saw him at the store, and brought it up to him assuming we knew. But we didn't know as the letter hadn't come in the mail yet. But after she said something, he knew, and when the letter came, he took it. He was mad at me at the time. Now he doesn't even remember why, and says that he responded to the letter thanking them, but telling them I had received a full-ride scholarship to the school of my choice and no longer needed funding. He gave them his own cell phone number and said they could call him with any questions. He says they did, and he just convinced them I didn't need the scholarship and they should give it to someone else. So they did. He admits it was crappy of him, but doesn't seem to think it was a big deal. He doesn't even see the value of the money lost because I still got to go to college. But the difference was that I ended up $40K in debt with student loans. I still owe $35K, and the interest is counting. The scholarship would have paid out a total of $45K over the course of my college education, as long as I maintained minimum grades. His prank cost me tens of thousands of dollars. I know he's in AA, and the goal is to make amends and fix relationships. But this honestly makes me never want to see him again. I spent college so incredibly stressed over money, and this could have solved so much of it. And he did this over something he can't even remember now. Where do I go from here? Am I supposed to let this go? Sorry for this kind of rant. I don't really know what I'm asking other than just general advice on how this should affect my relationship with him. I feel like I don't want any relationship with him at all now, but I know I might regret that years down the road. What he did was awful, but what sticks out for me is that he doesn't seem to care how it's affected OP, nor can he even remember what provoked him. OP's brother owes him, in the very least, a real apology, one which acknowledges how his actions seriously affected him and his future. No, he's not entitled to OP's forgiveness just because he fessed up. Making amends is not a foolproof guarantee that you will mend a relationship, and I hope his sponsor went over that. I really understand why OP is so pissed off. I'd also tell him the only true amends he can make is to help with OP's debt if he can't take all of it. His recovery is pretty suspect. It's up to OP whether to forgive him or not. I don't think resentment is always the personally soul-crushing experience it's made out to be, but it could be.